You got a story the world needs to hear, a spark inside that's crystal clear. No more hiding in the digital crowd. It's time to stand up, speak out loud. Every dream starts with a single sound. Your message matters, let it resound. The spotlight's waiting, the mic is yours. Step into the moment, open the doors. Your voice, your vision, your stage. Turn the page, ignite the rage. From whispers to waves, let your truth engage. Your voice, your vision, your stage. You try to post, you played the game, but real connection needs.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Your Stage. This is your voice, your vision, your stage. I am delighted because today I'm bringing back another wonderful guest who was on, I would say, maybe a year ago, around plus minus a month. But one of my first guests when I embarked on this live streaming adventure, journey, call it what you want. But I'm just happy that I was able to bring back this wonderful guest. And for those who have seen the thumbnail, you know who it is. But give me a second here. We're going to follow the sequence here. My name's Americo. I will be hosting today's conversation. My guest today is Camila Ferreira, and we are streaming live across LinkedIn, YouTube, and Substack. We are getting the studio ready. Those who are joining us, feel free. Let us know where you're joining from. But more importantly, I want each and every one of these live conversations to be not only about the panel, those of us who are on stage, but this is your live stream as much as it is ours. Feel free to engage, feel free to participate, drop your comments, drop your questions, and we'll be sure to answer those questions for you throughout the show. Now, give us a like. I already mentioned the comments. If you're getting any form of value, even if it's the smallest form of value, I want you to share this with someone you know. And if you leave today learning something that you didn't know before the event started, be sure to support and share with your thoughts and comments with your community. So as mentioned, my guest today, Camila Ferreira, a global keynote speaker in customer experience and leadership. I'm excited. Camila, how are you? I'm going to bring us up on camera, but while you introduce yourself, I'll get the studio ready.
Fantastic. And thank you so much for having me again. It's always a pleasure to share the stage with you, exchange ideas, and particularly today, kind of talking about the impact of live streaming in customer experience. As you mentioned before, I'm a global speaker on customer experience and leadership, have had a chance to live in a few countries and experience the live streaming as part of my business as well, because I also have a podcast. But this is a topic for later. Let's kick things off. Thank you very much for having me again. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Well, it is always a pleasure, especially when people who were once live with me are willing to come back a second time. That tells me that I maintained a level of accountability that kept our relationship strong, and with you wanting to come back. Hey, before we jump into the questions, I want to take a moment to have you share a little bit about who you are, where you've been, and for those who didn't attend the first conversation. Let's hear a little bit about your background. I know you and I have pivoted slightly, but we're still passionate about customer experience, and we're going to talk about that and how live streaming has really taken off and is where I'm centering my focus. But please, over to you.
Okay, absolutely. So first and foremost, I'm originally from Brazil. I have spent or invested 25 years in corporate, 10 of those years in finance. So my background is definitely the finance part of the business. But then later on, I transitioned into operations, and I specialized in myself on designing strategies on how to support clients all over the globe. Throughout this journey, I have had the chance to live in 6 different countries, some of them in Latin America. I had an experience in Europe, and nowadays I live here in the US. And after 25 years of this corporate journey, I decided to live by my own terms. So I found my company called Rise Up, where I help leaders and organizations transforming experience into business growth through technology, leadership, and of course, experience. This has been a very interesting journey since the beginning of 2025, but very rewarding. I have been knowing more about who I am and the impact that I can make and I can help others make in a different way, right? Because when we are incorporated, we were kind of limited to your team or to the organization you were part of. However, when you become your own company, a solopreneurship journey, then you become limitless.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to start firing off the questions. If I were to ask myself this question, my answer is yes, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is customer experience broken?
What if I say no? Would that be a good start? The yes and no?
Yes, the yes and no. There's no right or wrong answer, right? We can agree to disagree, but I'll let you share why, if no is your answer, and I respect why you're going to explain no, and I will share my sentiment as to why I'm leaning towards yes.
Okay. At the end of the day, America, it can be yes or no. Yes and no. I'm so sorry. The thing is, there is something I carry with me, which is we see the world the way we are, and not necessarily the way the world is. And once you understand this, and when you live by this, and I tell you, oh, CX is not broken, I am seeing this from my perspective. And when you say, Cami, this is broken, you are seeing this from your perspective. And both of us are right. However, what I do see in CX is a misunderstanding of the power of CX. That for sure. Okay. To me, it's less about being broken or not broken, but how people approach CX and how much they get out of customer experience. Similarly, you go buy a car, you can buy a top-notch, a very technological car, which is nice, you're going to pay a lot of money, but if you do not know how to use it, then it's not that the car is broken, it's that you're not getting the best out of the car. Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense. Now, the reason why I'm leaning towards it being broken, and yes, you're absolutely right. We each have different opinions based on what we're exposed to, and what may be broken to me may not be broken to someone else looking at it from a different lens. So I'm looking at this from a lens, from the boardroom lens, and I've sat around boardroom tables where leaders will bury CX in a metric and focus it. You know, some organizations say CX is part of the sales funnel and marketing handles it. Others say it's part of the support funnel and customer success handles it. So right there, when you have different leadership styles pointing fingers as to who's responsible, and when something does arise, when a pain point arises, then there are different perspectives. Oh, it's an anomaly. We're not hearing this anywhere else. But those anomalies, I've come to learn, and I've tried to raise awareness that those anomalies, you got to respect them, because they may be the one person or the one group of people who are willing to tell you what everyone else is thinking.
Oh, absolutely. Right? And I think that you mentioned something quite important, which is the responsibility. Who is responsible for CX at the end of the day? Companies still treat CX as a department, which is something that I disagree with. But whenever you assign this to a specific department, what's going to happen? As I said before, the department will see this from its perspective, which is different than any other department. If this is under marketing or under sales, of course, it's going to be managed differently if it's under operations, for example. So to me, customer experience, and when I say that it's completely underutilized, it's still, most of the times, is still seen as or misinterpreted as customer support, very much limited and focused on tickets. Second of all, to me, it's not a department, but a business engine that must be shared and moreover must be lived by all departments, where they do have the customer at the center and they make decisions based on that and not the other way around.
So love Leslie's comments. Everything is relative to each and every one of us. She agrees that we are all right and we are all wrong at some point. Right? And that's the whole, I guess, subjective versus objective response, right? And
at the end of the day, Americo, I think that we spend so much resources on trying to prove ourselves and feeding our ego rather than driving the business forward. Oh, I don't have to be right and I don't have to be wrong. So it's less about being right or wrong. It's what matters to the business about what matters to the client.
Absolutely. And here's Leslie's added sentiment with her shows, and she hosts some fantastic live streams. Her intention is to treat each and every one of her attendees the way that she wants to be treated, right? So she puts her attendees at the center of her shows, her subject matter expertise, and it's about bringing value, sharing value that she would expect if she were in the audience listening to the message that is being disseminated. And,
absolutely. High five to Leslie. She's very customer centric.
Yeah. And well, that also comes with, a lot of experience. So I fully respect her for looking at things the way that she is. And thank you for sharing that, Leslie. Listen, I look at customer experience from the marketing lens and sales. A mix between sales and marketing. And hence my pivot to live streaming when it comes to marketing and getting my message out and helping others get their message out. It's about building value. It's about building trust. And what better way to do it than with a live stream? And we're going to get into it in a few moments, but I recognized an opportunity. I saw the pain points and I was hearing the cries, and we still hear the cries out today, how much people are starving for human engagement, human interaction. So AI is not going anywhere anytime, ever, right? It's only going to evolve. It's only going to get bigger, more efficient, more effective. But the human element seems to be disappearing with each iteration of a GPT and an LLM that keeps getting better. And as much as leaders are saying, it's almost human-like, it's seamless interactions. Listen, I deal with organizations, as many of us, if not all of us by now, we will engage with an organization, a product, a service, and not have the option to talk to a real person. It just isn't available anymore, right? The CRMs, it's a live chat, it's a bot you're talking to, and no matter how much times you press 0 or how many times you ask that bot, agent, you're not getting through to a live person. So I felt that there's something that I could do. And no matter how small, I want to be able to work with individuals who still want to differentiate themselves and bring that human element in the customer lifecycle throughout the journey, especially at the top of funnel when it comes to raising awareness, building that consideration, and helping consumers make their buying decisions. Want people to feel confident knowing that they can build trust by having real life conversations like we're having. to help build that trust, to help build that reputation through social selling. Live streaming doesn't mean you're selling all the time. Here's my product. Sure, you might have a product launch, you might have a Q&A or something that's coming up, a fireside chat, but each time we jump in front of the camera, step into the mic, it's an opportunity for us to be human, to be vulnerable, and to relate with the consumer and the prospects who are just starving for what we're delivering here today.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that you kind of humanize, you put a face to a product that in a product is so, I would say, cold or far from humanity. But when you put a face to it, and that is so interesting because I was listening to you and I remember that in the beginning of my solopreneurship journey, I was advised by a few mentors on how to create my community, how to nurture my community. And they were unanimous in saying that I should have a newsletter. However, writing has never been one of my strengths. This is not something that comes naturally from me. And I'm like, I don't feel authentic growing a community or nurturing a community by writing because this is not very much of me. However, I started kind of exploring the platforms that I would work with. That's when I got to know about LinkedIn Live. And I think that's when you and I kind of got to know each other. And I said, this kind of talks to me. And why? Because I love the mic. I love kind of talking. I'm very outspoken. So that's when the platform, the tools meets the personality. And I am so grateful I kind of pursued a different path for myself. So rather than creating a newsletter, I decided for a podcast, for the live events, because I had the chance to put a face to what was behind a brand that I was just building from a company standpoint. And people could see and could engage with me in a completely different way than just words that are not necessarily kind of aligns to who I am. So it's very interesting what you said. I love lives. I think it makes a huge difference. You create connection. It helps you build trust. And moreover, you put a face to whatever is behind that service or product.
Absolutely. Listen, this episode is called Live Streams Are the New CX Power Move. Right. So let's focus on that for a second, because we talk about building trust. You talk about humanizing the experience, but it doesn't end once we stop this live stream. The heavy lifting begins after this conversation, because we now have an opportunity. And I'm with you. I'm not the best writer. If you ask me to write something, if given the choice, I probably will prefer to talk my way into it or out of it than write myself in or out of something. But now we have these digital assets that we can repurpose and meet our communities where they hang out and offer them the content in the format in which they prefer to consume. So there are people who prefer to read and consume their content in different formats. There are others who, may not stick around for the full conversation because they prefer to consume their message and their content in snappy, bite-sized short clips. And this will all happen after this conversation. I will start to take this. So we're having a real conversation. We're helping build trust between our communities. But now, because this is real life scenario, we're also building social proof and credibility, which is just as important.
Absolutely.
For that customer life cycle.
I agree.
Right. So just monitoring the chat here, fitting into this ecosystem. Let me ask you, how do you see, and this is going to be the segue to your framework. How do you see, and you kind of answered this already, that you love it, but how do you see live streaming evolving? Is it going to compete with AI, or will it remain strong? And please tell me what I hope or what you think I want to hear.
Look, I see AI as any other platform, and you and I, we have already experienced and we have gone through some technological disruptions, right? None of them replace the human being, and I don't think AI will ever do that. What I do think so is now I think that we are leaning towards too much kind of on AI, and everything must be automated. Everything must be kind of done through artificial intelligence. So we are underappreciating or undervaluing the power of the human power, or the power of the human connection. However, I think we are going too fast from one extreme to another. There will be a moment, and I truly believe in that we will start appreciating the human connection way more than we do today. And why? Because we're going to be tired and exhausted of AIs and robots and automations and kind of pressing the numbers and not getting in contact with anyone, right? So I think life is all about balance. So technology comes to help us become more efficient, but should also help us to do what we do best, which is human connection. I have no problems kind of calling or contacting support or using technology to solve my problem on a daily basis. But I do seek human connection. I want to be surrounded by my friends. So if technology, if AI comes to allow me to spend more time with my family and loved ones, so be it. We
Yeah.
cannot just believe we are going to live in a world without human connection. That I don't think is possible.
Well, there are people who believe that day is coming. I
It
totally
may
agree.
come, but then we're going to be, as I said before, right? So we're going to be on the other extreme of the humanity. And life is not about extremes, life is about balance.
Excellent. Great way to cap it off. And let's move into our next segment. And the segment is centered around your framework. You have a signature framework that you coach to, LimitLess CX. What can you share about your framework? Love to hear a little more about that.
Absolutely. So Limitless is based on three main pillars: leadership, experience, and technology. And the three of them, as I was saying before, must be intended. So you need leadership to design these strategies. How can you have AI designing the strategy if AI is based on what has have already happened? Second, you need the technology, because technology will boost your performance, will help you do more with less. And when I say do more with less, it's not because I'm thinking of getting rid of jobs. No, it's again, so if I can deliver the same performance or better performance and gain more time to spend with my loved ones, why not? And at the end of the day, you can have the top-notch product. However, if you're not delivering memories, if you're not delivering experiences, then anyone can copy you, especially nowadays. So the speed that companies are created and they are at the same time sunset is impressive. You have teenagers launching companies, launching apps at this, I would say, as fast as we have never seen before. So, of course, the technology came to help us move faster. However, it's not only the technology. If you just have a product that does not deliver, does not help create memorable experiences, someone else will just go and copy you. But copying the experience you deliver is way more complicated. And why? Because it comes with people, it comes with leadership. So this is limitless. Limitless is the ability of balancing leadership, experience, and technology for the best of the business.
Now, in your opinion, between the three pillars, which do you think, or which would you say organizations struggle with the most? Or does it vary by industry and vertical?
I would say leadership. Especially nowadays, it's not uncommon to see people thinking they can solve problems with AI. Oh, let's launch AI as if AI would solve absolutely everything. Oh my goodness, no. Right. So AI will amplify what you already have. If you are living in a chaos, you're gonna live in an amplified chaos. That's what AI does. However, having strong leaders that truly understand the power of experience and will design strategies that will combine experience with technology, to me, is where companies struggle the most. Sometimes in their willingness to reduce costs, they end up kind of hiring not the best talents for the moment that they are living or for the culture they have. And the results or the cost may not come in the short term, but in the medium and long term. And I'm pretty sure that you are experiencing this. They decide to go for less experienced leaders because they are cheaper, they are still kind of building or developing their careers, and that they are not valuing um, the knowledge and the background of more senior and talented leaders. And this to me is such a big trap, because that bill will come sooner or later. So to me, once again, among the three, I think that leadership is where they struggle the most. They don't give it the weight it deserves.
Oh wow, oh, that can be a show on its own.
Right?
uh, that is powerful, because you're absolutely right. You're talking to someone who got laid off 3 times post pandemic and always found themselves on the wrong side of technology and just of companies looking for a leaner, more cost effective way to operate. And you're right, leadership, they bring in younger leadership where they can develop at a lower cost. They bring in the technology which they think and believe will solve the problems that they have and will address the skill and the expertise that they've relinquished themselves from by laying off so many people. But
Absolutely. And kind of coming back to what we were discussing in the beginning of the show, there is no right or wrong, because we see the world the way we are and not necessarily the way it is. But it's all about balancing things out. I'm not against of younger leaders. I think they bring to the table something that more senior leaders do not necessarily have. It's not one or the
absolutely.
other. It's how you balance things. And I am afraid that because we live in this short-term view, if you think about investors, if you think about the stock market, it's quarter by quarter. It's very short term. So I need to make the next quarter to get my bonus, and then the next one, and so on and so forth, which is completely different than you think long term, 3, 5, 10 years. What am I going to build? I need to build a very strong foundation for this company to have a sustainable growth and performance throughout the years, differently than you were kind of just biting one quarter after another.
Yeah, well, things move even faster than that. You look at the environment that we find ourselves today. Gas prices, as an example, a
Oh,
dollar a gallon over the last couple of days because of decisions that our politicians are making,
yes.
and things just move so rapidly, and the whole world gets impacted. CX is no different. So you talk
Mhm.
about leadership, experience, and technology. That's your framework, and I really like the leadership piece. Really like the experience and how you bring all three pillars together. Similarly, I try to help those who are in my community, those who I work with a framework of my own, one that speaks to and keeps the customer at the center of each live stream and each message. Because people come to me and they say, okay, you're the customer experience guy. You understand, you can help me connect with my customers better than I'm able to. How quickly can we turn one of these live streams into a revenue stream? It's like, well, hold on a second. You got to earn the right to sell something to someone. And if you haven't given them a reason to trust, you haven't given them a reason to decide that you are the best choice addressing and solving their problems, the go live button, and people are going to start giving you their credit card or ask for your services. You got to build trust, and trust starts from lowering barriers. Lower the barriers of entry. Stop front loading with a sales pitch or with intention to pitch. You want to build trust, and selling should be the furthest thing from your mind. This is a long-term strategy. Marketing is always long-term. And if you think that you can turn something over quick, then I always tell people, you either make the time or investment to do it right, or you make the time and spend the more money to do it over.
But this is a great example, America, of people and leaders outsourcing performance to technology. So this particular person is looking for something external rather than self-leadership to drive the business forward. So the live stream is just a way for you to connect with your potential audience, to create kind of, as you're correctly saying, the trust, the connection. But this is not what's going to solve the problem.
Absolutely not.
Similarly with AI, it's not AI that is going to solve the problem. It's the leadership. And leadership starts with self-leadership. That's another thing that I always coach my mentees when they come to me about leadership, kind of addressing some challenges they are facing with their teams or across the organization. And I normally say, let's start with your self-leadership. How do you manage yourself? So what is the level of accountability that you live by? And then once we address this and we have a strong foundation, we can start talking about leading others. But the very first person that we got to lead is ourselves.
So Leslie is our top contributor, and kudos to Leslie, because she does one of my key principles of my framework: engage. And we'll get to that in a second. She engages like no one else, both on her shows and on other shows. We are in an overwhelming sensory overload of information. I wouldn't do a newsletter if you don't feel called to, as there are many other ways to build communities. Yes, at one point, and that kind of goes with the trends. The top voice or a guru on a social media platform says, carousels are in, everyone's doing carousels. Newsletters are in, everyone's doing newsletters. Like, you got to do what's right for you. You got to do what attracts and engages your community, your audience, your ideal customer. Just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean that it's going to work for you.
Yeah.
Right? And you talked about copying.
Yeah.
Is the example, right?
As much as you can be your true self, the better. If I start doing something just for the sake of the trend or whatever. Uh-oh.
No, you're back.
We're here.
Okay, you're back.
I was just saying that if you do things, again, the impact of social media is horrible, because we go there and we start comparing ourselves to those influencers, but we forget that they face problems similar to ours. The only difference is that they are not exposing those problems. They are exposing a life that does not necessarily exist or is just a part of their lives. Because we all face challenges, we all struggle with different things. So the more you can be your true self, the better. It must be authentic. Whenever it's not, people will realize that. And you may have kind of a short-term success just because you are following the trend, but it will definitely fall short.
So we have a LinkedIn user. I don't know who that is, but the comment that's coming in: hello, I believe that thinking that AI will only help us and not reduce jobs is a little underestimating the potential of AI. If used well in contact centers, AI can lead to improved efficiency and reduce the need for human workforce. On the other hand, there are more. On the other hand, do we run out of space? We ran out of space here. Listen, I've worked in contact centers. I've supported financial institutions from a contact center space. And the only thing, maybe not the only thing, but I'm looking at this. The only people who are going to be happy about this are HR and leaders, because you've controlled your attrition and your churn are implementing AI solutions, because they're not going to call in sick. They're not going to quit on you. The cost savings of having to hire and replace someone that's constantly churning. Sure, AI is going to help. Those are jobs, some would say, that nobody wants to do anyway. So let technology handle it.
Yeah, and we have seen this throughout the years. So technology will, it has been and will continue disrupt the job market. It's not kind of limited to AI, right?
That's true. Yeah.
So industrial evolution, and ever since then we have been experiencing this. What I was saying is that AI will help you be more efficient, and consequently this can definitely eliminate jobs, but it will not be the only thing across the organization. And if not well used, again, let's think about contact centers, because you came from that industry and I work for that industry as well. The foundation for any automation is to have a clean and well-organized process. Otherwise, you cannot automate. You cannot automate a mess, because it's going to be a automated mess.
That's right.
Period. So for you to have an AI that truly works, you need to have a strong foundation of database, of cleaning and organized processes. Now tell me one process that does not change over time. And who is behind the process re-engineering? Leadership.
Back to leadership. All
I
right.
keep saying that.
Jolanta's shared with us, there's not enough longevity anymore in the workplace. And maybe longevity, I would say loyalty. And loyalty comes from both sides. Employee loyalty, organizational loyalty. It can be, and it can go either way.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do company appreciation depending on where you work. There's a lot of burnout. The burnout has always been there, right?
Yes.
When you work in that corporate space, when you work for someone else, the burnout is always there, because someone at some point is always trying to get more for less. They're trying to get value. They call it value, and you call it burnout, right? How much can we get from this person? And the minute someone demonstrates that it can be done, then that becomes the baseline for everyone.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's just reality.
Yes.
I don't think AI has introduced burnout. Burnout has always been a problem, because organizations, they got to fulfill the needs of their shareholders. And that's, once again, that in itself can be a whole other show. But
and I don't believe in longevity in corporates, to be honest with you. I think one of the concepts that I rebuilt was longevity or sustainability in corporate, if you will. So whenever you take a job, whenever you are in charge of something, it's for a period of time until either you or the company decides to change the conditions. So longevity, to me, the only longevity that I truly believe is the commitment to your true self. And unfortunately, when you are in corporate, that's the least you do, because you always needs to fit in. So you are constantly trying to change who you truly are and falling far from your authenticity, which is a big trap. So I don't think that corporate offers or has ever offered longevity, because it's based on performance. It's based on the stock market. And as we were saying, look at what we are living right now. Even things that you do not fully control are at stake and can impact your longevity.
You're back again.
Hey,
Go
not sure
ahead.
what's going on. I have kind of a full signal here for the internet. Just, I think it's a heated topic. Leadership is a heated topic. That's what's going
Someone's listening.
on.
Yeah, listen, it is a heated topic for us to continue to discuss. And another reason why live streaming works, whether it is for a customer's journey, whether it is just for, the conversation that we're having, this is an opportunity for people to share their thoughts, their opinions in real time and discuss it. That's part of the trust building. We may not agree with everything that is being said. We might have opinions, but as we started at the beginning of the call, when it comes to CX and how we define it, you say it's not broken because that's the perspective, that's the lens in which you see it. Where I believe it might be broken or parts of it are broken because it's my perspective and my lens. And that's the joy, because we can sit here and be right with two completely different answers.
Absolutely.
And that's perfectly fine, right? So let's make sure that we have addressed any questions. All right, so let's continue. I'm gonna jump in and ask another question for you here. Now, you've somewhat addressed and started to answer this, but I'll ask in case there's anything that's been left out. How do you see AI reshaping the way companies deliver customer experience? Do you see it getting worse before it gets better? How do you envision CX evolving with AI? And
Yeah, I always see the glass half full. So I think that AI will help only if you have a strong leadership behind it. And there is something that I want to bring to this conversation, which is we talk a lot about customer experience, but very few people talk about the employee experience. And I advocate a lot, I'm sorry, about the employee experience, because to me, you can only deliver what you have. So how can I ask an employee that is not experiencing or is not kind of going through a good experience, how can we ask this employee to deliver a good experience? It's almost impossible. In all of the companies that I have the chance to work for, in designing strategies on how to support clients across the globe, everything started with the employee. Giving them the tools, giving them the confidence, the training, the support, the active and empathetic listening, so they feel confident they can go and deliver. However, if you are constantly threatening them, if you are not offering them the infrastructure for them to be successful, there is no way you're going to have a good experience. They're going to be able to deliver a good experience to your clients. So everything starts from there. Speaking of AI is another tool. And one of the things that I see, one of the mistakes that I see companies making is, oh, we are going to implement AI. It seems that they need to check a box, but they forget about the change management. They forget about communication. And don't get me wrong, of course, people are being terminated or laid off because not only because of AI, but also because of technology or because of process reengineering. There are so many reasons why people get laid off. You just kind of said that you got laid off 3 times after the pandemic. If we do not communicate this well, we will just create a fearful environment that does not help in any way with business prosperity. So again, it's not about AI, it's about leadership. Are you communicating why you want to implement or develop or release AI? Are you bringing your community, your people, your team along with you? Are you working on change management? What kind of other options are you going to offer them? Or are you just kind of wake up one day and just let them go with nothing? Because let's be mindful here. Whenever we are hiring someone, we want them to go through the hiring process, talk to different people, and check their background and take tests and so on and so forth. But once the time comes for you to terminate them, how long does it take?
No,
You see,
that's
it's not
clear.
about
So
AI, it's about leadership.
yeah, well, the decision feels like it was in a snap, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of conversations that lead up to that decision. Now, Leslie brings, some great memories back in the day when working at IBM and I guess any of the big uh, blue chip companies, big corporations. Staying for decades was something that people were proud of. They were rewarded for it. And, could be, say the generation that preceded me, my parents. Um, we immigrated here and mom and dad stuck to the same line of work, same type of work, put in their 40 years and retired. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah,
Right?
I
And
remember
I,
when I told my mom the third time I was changing jobs, she freaked out. It was like, what the heck are you doing? Right? But again, it's very generational. The past, my mom's generation was very loyal to the company or the organization she was working for, regardless of how the company used to treat her. And the other way around, right? The organization would keep her regardless of her performance. I think that what we have earned over time is the performance-based appreciation, if you will. Not always fair, because again, we see the world the way we are and not necessarily the way it is. But the tenure in the organization, to me, it speaks nowadays, it speaks more than in the past.
yeah,
And why? Because it's a lot more performance based. In the past, you would just apply for that job and you will stay forever regardless of your performance. And I have had the chance to work for an European organization where the internal politics was to keep people kind of the long tenured people in there just because this is how it should be, and not because it was performance based, which was very frustrating for me because I was in my early career. I was kind of trying to conquer the world. And remember what we were talking about, kind of hiring the more tenure and the younger leaders. It's the balance of the two. As long as both of them bring value to the table.
one of the better, if not the best organization that I worked for throughout my career, tried and put a lot of effort into changing that loyalty paradigm. You know, if you were in a role for more than 3 or 4 years, there was something wrong with you and not the organization. They encouraged, movement. And on paper, when I left that organization, on paper, I looked like a flight risk. I looked like someone who can't hold down a position. But that was the culture. They encouraged and they inspired people. Make an impact, go learn something new, leave an impact. And as long as you left it in better position than when you walked in, that's how you got to look at it. 3 to 4 years tops, and you move on to your next role. And let me tell you, wonderful culture, wonderful organization. I would go back in a heartbeat, but I probably aged myself out of that because that's life. But I will advocate for how great they took care of the employee experience and encouraging and developing. No one, if you're in a role longer than 5 years, it's non-existent. It was beautiful. Anyway,
Amazing.
I digress because we're getting off track here, and we're also at the top of the hour. Now, for anyone watching today, watching live, watching the replay, let's talk a little bit about live streams. Let's talk a little bit about CX as a strategy. What's the first thing people should do? Like, I have my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your opinions on how people should look at live streaming as a strategy for improving or maintaining a positive experience?
Yeah, absolutely. To me, the live streaming is about creating connection, and connection helps, not necessarily creates, but helps creating trust. And your clients will buy more from you if you established a trustworthy relationship. So whenever you put a face to your product or service, whenever you are reachable, accessible for your clients, it helps you nurturing this community. And we are no longer in the era of the mega influencers, but rather the small communities. And why? Because people don't trust the mega influencers anymore. Everybody knows that they get paid to promote your service or your product. However, the small communities is where they see the reality, is where they experience the trust. So I really like, I don't know, this lipstick. And why? Because this is my day to day. I'm not being paid to say it. It's my daily life. I'm experiencing different things, and I really want to share this with my community. And why? Because I care about them. This to me is the power of live streaming. It's putting a face, is kind of engaging with your community, nurturing them in a very authentic way, which is very important.
That's awesome. We're going to pause here for a celebratory. Here, let's. We are celebrating 38 years in the current role for Kenneth. So he's one of the anomalies who has lived up to the loyalty game, or maybe not a game. But kudos to Kenneth. You're a rare breed. Employees like you are hard to come by. So kudos to you. All right. Let's wrap this up. Let's close it up and get your take on next 5 years. If you had that crystal ball, what does your crystal ball say the next 5 years would look like for CX?
Experience is your business strategy. It's not crystal ball, I can tell you. No matter the environment, experience has always been. The difference is that how we approach experience and how much value and weight we give to the experience. As I was saying before, I think that the speed we can copy products and services is kind of growing significantly over time. It's a lot easier for you to copy something that is, again, just go to the biggest marketplace that we have on earth, and you're going to see how many copies and how many different suppliers you have for the same product. What differentiates them is the experience. Of course, price takes a role for sure, but it's not only this. I would rather pay more for a company, for an organization that actually delivers a good experience and gives me peace of mind, because if I know that by the time something breaks, and it can break at any time, it will become a nightmare, and this will take my kind of a family time, then I won't buy for you, even if you are the cheapest one. So it's not about crystal ball. It's about giving experience the right weight it deserves for business growth.
All right. I said this was going to be the last question, but I'm going to share a real customer story that I'm experiencing right now. And I'm sure we all have stories that we can talk for hours. I just want to get your thoughts, and we'll wrap it up. So I'm currently shopping around for technology. Want to upgrade my computer hardware and my tech as my streaming services grow. I need to be well prepared and well equipped as I scale. And I started my journey online, and of course interact with a live agent, and I'm asking questions back and forth. And they're simply just reading back to me what I am looking at online. They're just reading the product description. So really not feeling the help. Hey, I can read what you're reading. In fact, I've already read it, and now I'm looking for some professional advice. I'm looking to make a wise or a well-educated purchasing decision. Doesn't seem like you're helping, or you're being of much help. Of course, I didn't say that. I respectfully just ended the chat, and I decided, all right, let me get in the car. Let me go to one of the bricks and mortar stores and see if someone can help me in real life, real person. And I took a drive into the city, went to one of the shops, and there was no one there for the longest time who would give me the time of day. Like, hello, I got money. I want to give you money in exchange for some products. Does anybody want to help me? And I was asked, have you tried going online? Like, oh my goodness.
You see?
All right, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. I'm going to take my business elsewhere. I didn't get in the car and travel halfway across town for you to tell me to go back to where I started my journey. So
Absolutely. Experience is the key to trust. And without trust, there is no loyalty. So if you want to win in this business game, you must build trust. And trust comes from experience.
all right. So that is my one of many, many poor experiences. But hey, that's why I think it's broken. One of the many reasons why I think it's broken. But listen, it has been an absolute pleasure, an absolute delight having you back. Thank you so much for spending the last hour. I also want to thank everyone who stuck around in the chat. If I haven't got to your comments, rest assured I will circle back and engage and make sure that anything that wasn't addressed is answered. And as well, this will be repurposed. I will take today's conversation and write a fantastic blog over on Substack. So if you're not following on Substack, give it a look. If you enjoy consuming this live, you don't have to go to Substack. I'm going to meet those who enjoy reading what we spoke about. I'm going to share that with them, and we'll create some short clips on YouTube, and we'll spread the word, spread the love on how customer experience is at the center of what we believe in, and how live streaming is at the center of what I believe is a wonderful place to find yourself when it comes to awareness and consideration and all of those top of funnel customer activities. So if you haven't connected with Camila, feel free, reach out. She's just a LinkedIn click away. And I know you had mentioned it to me, and you mentioned it to the audience. Being from Brazil, you didn't go to Carnival, did you?
No, not this year. I was moving. It was a different type of carnival here.
I had my two relatives that went to Brazil, to Rio, to experience Carnival, because it's a completely different experience than it is in Portugal, where we're from.
Oh, yes. And I highly encourage people to live this at least once in life. It's memorable.
That's awesome. All right, so let's close the room, wrap it up for today. And for those who are watching on Team Replay, be sure to engage in the comments, and we'll still give you the answers to the questions that you drop in the comments. Bye for now. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.